MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy. This is episode 311. There are no glitches, no technical errors, nothing like that that's going to stop us from putting out an episode this week, Jason. Unlike episode 310. But Jason, we missed last week. It happens. This isn't our day jobs. This isn't our full-time jobs, unfortunately, folks. But how are you in the week that we haven't chatted? Because there's been a lot of soccer news.
There's a lot going on. I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm in full playoff mode, even though it feels like there hasn't been a game in a while.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the playoffs. I feel like, and that's it. I'm thinking about the teams, who's going to win. I don't know. Like, the matchups get harder and harder to predict as each round goes. And in some ways, the ones we thought were easiest ended up being the ones we were wrong on. So I think I'm just excited to dive into another round, right? Like, I'm just excited to continue on because it's been already really fun and unexpected playoffs. So I just think we might have more chaos coming our way.
I mean, 100%. And just to, I guess, start, there's a lot to talk about, even in the world of non-MLS Cup playoffs, which I'm trying to keep the focus on that. So we'll see how quickly we can get through some of that other news. But in terms of the opening round 1, 8 matchups, I mean, Jason, you killed it. You went 6-2 on the picks, and your 2 picks that you got wrong were Columbus and Miami. I mean, I don't think anyone can hold you.
Maybe the 2 that I was maybe most confident in going into the round.
Exactly, right? But that's the beauty of Major League Soccer and the beauty of the MLS Cup playoffs. I went 4-4. I mean, obviously, I got the Miami and Columbus picks wrong as well, but the Charlotte one, which, you know, that went down pretty much to the wire, and the same with the RSL Minnesota split. So I'm not overly upset. You know, PKs just like anyone else, right? They hurt me at the end of the day there.
Yeah.
But we will talk about some of those game 3s. I think more probably previewing leading into the next round. The single elimination is here, and the wild west of Major League Soccer is here as well. I want to run through some of these other notes going on around U.S. soccer, just because I feel like it is important to talk about, because this piece of news, I said this yesterday on Twitter. We're also over on Blue Sky as well. MLS Aces on Blue Sky. People are loving it, heavily transitioning over there. I'm getting a lot more engagement over there too. So if whoever's been interacting with us, following us,
making my way, it'll probably be the same handle though. So
Jason, the super notable social media guy, is going to slowly make his way over. But I put this out on Blue Sky and Twitter. It's not often that MLS news shocks me. Like, truly, like, I get the notification, I see the post, and I'm like, holy shit. The Tata Martino out as manager of Inter Miami truly shocked me. This is one that I feel like if we're going to spend any time in the next 5 to 10 minutes really deep diving, I think it should be this. Tata Martino obviously just led Inter Miami to the MLS single season point record this year with 74 points, winning the Supporter Shield in the process. He won 2023 Leagues Cup with this team as well, and in his 67 games in charge of this club, he went 38 wins, 13 draws, and 16 losses. He is and was everything that I think this former Barcelona starred team needed as a leader, needed as a manager, and it came down to 2 trophies and a points record, which isn't bad. But you know, I expected Tata to be back in 2025. I don't know about you.
I mean, you texted me before I got the news anywhere else, and I just was like, "What?" Like, I'm incredibly surprised by the news. I don't really have much to add besides the fact that it kind of blew me away. Like, I did not see that coming. I did not think that was even a possibility. Like, sure, you could talk about, was it a failure, was it not, whatever. We'll get into that.
You keep bringing it up, Jason. It's not me.
Because at this point, it very well might be, I think. But I didn't expect, like, this to happen. I didn't expect a new coach to be coming around next season.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. I'm genuinely surprised by it. And it seems kind of like a, I don't know, reactionary move. I don't know if Tata wanted out or if
Well,
players do with it.
according to reports from Tom Bogert, it was a personal decision from him to leave the club. I don't know. That's the statement coming out. Obviously,
The
we
thing
don't
is,
know.
where is he going? Is he going somewhere?
I mean, look, I think Tata's someone put it out on social media yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever it dropped,
He's going to
and
Atlanta.
And I mean, right, that'd be funny, the return to Atlanta. But someone put it out and they were just like, Tata's not notably staying at a place for more than 2 or 3 seasons at a time. This is obviously much shorter. This is 1 year, but it's not like Tata Martino stays at a club for 5 to 10 years building this whole thing. Like, he's definitely a short-term success kind of guy, and he sure had that in his 2 years or whatever, in his 1 year. But I mean, it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know how else to put it.
It's just like such a surprise, and I feel like we'll have more info that comes out potentially over the offseason and whatnot about either where they're looking next, and maybe they have a plan and it was a mutual decision. I don't know. I just feel like we need more info, because to me it's like,
I agree.
It's just straight up surprising, and I don't really understand it until I see kind of where Miami goes and potentially where Tata goes, and that will maybe explain a little bit more.
Look, this is going to be an interesting offseason for Miami. We're going to talk about it deeper, I think, as the offseason goes on, as we get Tata's goodbye press conference this week. I have a dog in the house this episode, so that just scared the shit out of me. We're going to get more news as it comes up, right? Whose decision it was, maybe where things led a little bit more. Notably, people have come out and said, and I agree, this is not an easy job, right? You have to manage personalities, you have to manage young talents, you have to manage a lot, and this is a job I don't think for the faint of heart, and I give Tata the credit that he did with this group, and that he deserves with this group, but it's gonna be an interesting name that fills this. I don't think you can be like, the random manager from USL Championship should be getting this job. This is gonna be a high level name that Messi and this group is gonna have their say in. The only other thing to me is this front office is changing just as much as Tata Martino leaving is a thing, right? Chris Henderson most likely is going to be gone soon enough, and being, I think there's a lot of people connecting him to Atlanta. I've done it. Plenty of other people have done it. There's a whole shift going on right now, and it's gonna come down to Messi has his 2 trophies so far in MLS, but he hasn't won MLS Cup. He hasn't won a Nations League. Not a Nations League. He hasn't won, a Champions Cup or anything like that. They obviously play in the Club World Cup next year as well. It's gonna be super interesting to see what happens and how they can rebuild this roster once again heading into 2025. But we'll talk about it more. I just think it's definitely important to note that. Next, FC Dallas, they have hired their next head coach. This is a club definitely looking more at the USL Championship, larger US soccer coach route, and they went that way. Dallas hired Eric Quill as their next manager. This will be his first opportunity coaching in a first division. He's previously managed North Texas SC, obviously underneath the FC Dallas umbrella there when they were in USL League One. And then most recently, he's been managing New Mexico United in the USL Championship. He won a USL League One title. He won a USL League One regular season title as well with North Texas. He has over 66 or over 65 career wins between his time with North Texas and New Mexico. I mean, like, his winning record is ridiculous at the lower league level within the U.S. I like it. This isn't the most, I think, proven pathway for a USL coach to get to the MLS level. He took a year off from head coaching. He was an assistant at Columbus for a year under Caleb Porter, right? And he was a former FC Dallas guy. So I wish we saw a little bit more like independent coach came up through USL who's earned the opportunity. But either which way, Eric Quill deserves an opportunity. It's just the Dallas, not super flashy, not Tata Martino or Xavi or anything like that path, Jason?
Yeah, and I think that Dallas themselves is like a pretty competitive team, right? Like, they were near the playoff spots going towards the end of the season before, other teams kind of pulled away, and they, didn't.
Yeah, right.
But like I don't know. I think it's hard to say. Like I like the idea of getting someone who has a good track record, has coached a lot, and I always like to see people get shots at this, like deserved shots. And I hope FC Dallas gives them kind of a decently long leash, because I know we go through this every year, but it takes a little while to
Yeah.
get acclimated and to get your roster built and to figure out what you want to do and to figure out how to even compete really in the league. But he's not inheriting a horrible team. It's not
No.
a basement team. They're a solid competitive team who have actually started to invest a little bit more. So hopefully we see more of that and they have a good season.
Yeah. And look, I know Eric Quill was in line. He was one of the finalists for the head coaching job, either for the Luchi Gonzalez hire or the Nico Estevez hire. Don't remember which one. So sorry there, folks, for the facts there. But he was a finalist. I know from what reports are coming out from Tom Bogert was that he was really liked within the Dallas organization. This hire just seemed to make sense. So I'm rooting for the guy. I hope that that we see the success more as it comes with him. I'm going to run through these two. We're already starting to get signings this offseason. It's crazy. We're not going to talk about these much, but I'm not ready for it. My brain just isn't here. But DC United, after their year-end decisions, they cut all 4 goalkeepers on their roster, and they now are rebuilding that goalkeeper room. They signed goalkeeper Jordan Farr from the Tampa Bay Rowdies in the USL Championship. He's a 30-year-old veteran USL keeper. He's won titles and trophies in USL. He's been a goalkeeper of the year. He's been a best 11. He's, the best of the best in the second division here. Obviously, Troy Lesane, former USL championship head coach. He knows those guys. So it's just, it makes sense at the end of the day. And we'll see what, if he's given a shot to start, back up, whatever it may be. Nashville. They've signed central midfielder Edvard Tagseth from Rosenborg in Norway. The 23-year-old midfielder does have 10 goal contributions this season in the Norwegian top division. He has over, what is that? Close to 30 goal contributions in about 138 career games for Rosenborg. That's been the only club he's played at the senior level. Jason, he is a former Liverpool Academy product, and, things didn't work out for them there, obviously. But look, this is BJ Callahan just getting his guys into the roster. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Let's keep it moving. USMNT, CONCACAF Nations League, the only competition that we sweep it all at, right? We're the only winners of this competition. We are on to the semifinals after 2 wins against Jamaica, a 1-0 road win versus Jamaica, where Ricardo Pepi scored. Then we come home to St. Louis, 4-2 win against Jamaica, where goals came from Christian Pulisic, Ricardo Pepi, Timothy Weah, and an own goal as well. There's a few points here, and we're going to talk a little bit super high level about this. We're not going to go breaking down these games, but
we got too many games to talk about.
So much shit to talk about. That's why I'm like out of breath here. But you got Pepe scoring in back-to-back games. You got Christian Pulisic once again being a factor on the score sheet, a goal and an assist. Tessman looking super impressive under Pochettino so far in that short stint. Matt Turner looking, a little bit more like his old self, even though he hasn't been perfect in net, especially within these last 2 games. And then Timothy Weah back in the lineup, scoring a golazo in this one. That was a sick goal from Weah. What stands out to you about these 2 wins or about this group right now under Poch?
I mean, I think I'm looking at these games as like, look, we won these games, like you said, with Greg. We've been in this competition and done very well in the past. So I'm less looking at it as like in the sense of, oh, how competitive are these, or how I'm more thinking of it even further, higher level. Like, this is Pochettino's way. Like, these are the games that he's actually getting to work with his team, kind of like figuring out what he wants to do, figuring out what the limits, what the strengths of the team are, what the strengths of the players in each position are. So I think, like, at a super high level, Pepe performing is great to see. I think we know what Balogun can do. We've seen the talent there. I think the more talent, we know what Sargent can do, but the more talent in that position just furthers, everything you can do on the field if you have an amazing number 9. Pulisic is continuing just this incredible season he's having so far.
Yeah.
Which I think is to be expected, and I hope, it seems like Pochettino really gets Pulisic and realizes the importance of him.
I liked Pochettino shifting Pulisic to the central midfield position in the second game. I thought getting him on the ball more and more down the middle was unbelievable.
I mean, yeah, he's our best player. Getting him to touch the ball as much as possible, good things should and will happen. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, this is just kind of a glimpse so far of what either we can expect or look forward to. Is just how are these adjustments being made? What is he doing? And how is he evaluating our players either during the games or from game to game? Like you said, switching players, positioning, strategically. I don't know. And I think, back to back against Jamaica is maybe a little bit easier to then look at the first game and then kind of adjust. But any adjustments are welcome, right? Any adjustments from game to game that improve on the team, even if they don't necessarily improve right away. I like to just see adjustments, see the fact that we are looking at this and trying to figure out how can we make this better every single minute of the game. So I don't know. I think high level, these 2 wins, great. I kind of expect us to do that. But at like the things I'm watching for are more like how are the players being used and how is Pochettino kind of like approaching the team.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's going well so far. I like to see wins in games that matter and not just friendlies, right? That's also a big thing. I agree with the sentiment and the fact that we should be winning these games. Yes, Jamaica, they have talent. They have Premier League talent. They have a lot of big names. Obviously, I think if the Jamaican FA wasn't as messed up as it was,
more money, they'd be good.
I think Jamaica would be seriously like pushing for top 3 club in CONCACAF.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other conversation.
Be in the discussion with Mexico, USA, Canada at this point.
100%. But again, that's for a whole different podcast. But ultimately, yes, we should be winning these games, but I think the reason why, we've had a major shift is we haven't been winning the games that we should. And yes, I'm not going to compare Copa America to a Nations League quarterfinal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we have sort of been winning the games that we should outside of that Copa America, which is not to dismiss it. Like,
yeah, I'm saying like
we were winning the games we should. Like under Greg, we probably go 2-0 in these games too. Just
yes,
give him the credit he deserves. I
think that's 100% fair. Yes, I agree with that, but I'm saying like you can only
not a Greg truther because he's on the fire. I promise.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Jason's been a Greg truther for years now.
I would love to hear somebody that says we go 1-1 or whatever. We don't win these games.
100%. There's someone out there that would say that we lose in Jamaica, and
sure they do, but I disagree.
Yes, and I agree with that. I just want to keep us winning these games that yes we should, and that's Poch has done it, and Greg did it, and everyone has pretty much done it before, and it's always come down to Mexico, and now the argument is Mexico and Canada, and we got to tackle that, and hopefully we get it done against Panama, and we can face either Canada or Mexico in a Nations League final, and Poch can have a trophy under his belt and keep up the confidence in that, and I think that's pretty fair to end the conversation.
That's what we're looking for. That's it.
Exactly. MLS year-end roster decisions. We're not going to go through each club. We're not doing anything like that, but there are a few notable names that I feel like we should probably mention.
Sad ones too.
A few sad ones. But Sporting Kansas City, I think, hit the hardest for MLS fans in that they decided to move on from Tim Melia and Johnny Russell. Tim Melia, obviously there longer than Johnny Russell, but Johnny Russell part of that kind of core that Peter Vermees has built in SKC. It's sad. It's sad to see these two guys go. Yes, should they have probably moved on from them a year, 2 years ago, or whatever to actually keep this club competitive, building and building for the future? Probably, but these are still two, stalwarts of the club, and it's sad to see them leave at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like years ago doing this podcast and being like, I love Johnny Russell. Like when he was off flying, he was one of those amazing players to watch. So I agree. I mean, obviously, Tim Melia, the name speaks for itself. The guy's a legend. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tim Melia, I will say it every single time his name pops up in conversation from my hometown. I love Tim. He didn't go to my high school. He went to a private high school, so I have to fault him for that. But I love him at the end of the day, and I think it would be a very poor decision from any MLS club out there if you're a contender and you're going to be a contender in 2025 if you don't reach out to Tim Melia and Johnny Russell and try to bolster the depth of your teams with that.
Well, I'm sure they'll be at Columbus in a couple months.
LAFC, Columbus, see you soon. No, but yeah, look, that's pretty much what I think it comes down to with those two. Hector Herrera out in Houston after Spitgate in the playoffs. I mean, I don't think that's too shocking there.
It sounded like that had something to do with it as well, which makes 100%. Sense. So yeah. I mean, we were 100%. Talking about it like this could be the end even before it happened. So
I mean,
there's a way for that to end. Like after a pretty successful run there, I don't know. Not
2023 was much better than 2024 for Hector Herrera. I will say that this year, I think his injury proneness showed, his age showed a little bit more, which is fair.
But his importance showed when he was there.
100% as well. But I think if you're Houston and you've been at the cusp of a certain level the last 2 years under Ben Olsen and you want to raise that, I think you gotta move on, especially if the guy's doing stupid shit like that.
Well, 100%, yeah. I mean, he basically, essentially, they're two stars kind of through the series. But
exactly.
Hopefully, right? I mean, who they bring in is actually going to be the more interesting point because they're going to need someone at a pretty high level here.
Hey, Houston's been spending money in recent seasons under the ownership group that came in a few years ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see another record-breaking signing or something like that. But, time will tell. And again, we have time to talk about that. The last thing that I want to talk about super quickly in U.S. soccer news on the women's side of the game, Michelle Kang has donated $30 million to U.S. soccer to bolster the women's game here in the United States. The money and hope is to kind of touch and impact the women's game at the U.S. level, not just in the U.S., not just at the pro level, but kind of down to the grassroots level and giving opportunities all the way through. Not just, again, we have NWSL teams and USL Super League teams and all this stuff coming in, right? We need to touch it on the way down, all the way down. And I think that's what the point of this donation is, to help kind of produce and keep going over the next few years. If you don't know who Michelle Kang is, she's a Korean American businesswoman who's a majority owner of the Washington Spirit in the NWSL, majority owner of Olympique Lyon Feminine in the French First Division, and majority owner of the London City Lionesses, who are a women's club in the second division of English soccer. This is big. I don't know how much there really is to deep dive in on it. It's just big. It's good. Awesome for Michelle and awesome for U.S. soccer for hopefully putting in this investment in the women's game.
Yeah, I mean, $30 million is a lot of money. So
it'll go a long way, right?
And especially in the grassroots system, that's huge. And with how just women's soccer as a whole internationally has started to get a little bit more competitive, more interesting, closer, I think that $30 million could help the U.S. women's national team pretty significantly, just because of the amount of people that will benefit, hopefully, from this being at a grassroots level. So I think it's just better for the sport in general. So
exactly. I mean, look, it's hopefully going to help develop the future stars of any pro women's team in the country. The future stars of the U.S. women's national team, and obviously, probably help develop talent globally as well. We are a country that we've seen on the men's side of things with MLS. Like, we have a lot of immigrant born or recently tied immigrant players who go and they play for their national teams. Fafa Picault's going and playing for Haiti, right? Maybe this is an opportunity just to grow the women's game globally, but obviously I think the main focus is for the US side of things. Awesome. Let's dive into it, Jason. We did that pretty well. I think that was a pretty timely news recap there. Let's look at game threes that happened. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about the wildness that were a majority of these game threes, and then we'll look ahead to the next round of the playoffs. But let's start with the one Western Conference game that I'm a little disappointed with how it ended, I'll be honest. But number 1 LAFC versus number 8 Vancouver Whitecaps. LAFC picking up the 1-0 win at home. Honestly, not a bad game from Vancouver. I think they played very strong. I think the first half was specifically a very strong half defensively to keep the Whitecaps in the game. But at the end of the day, Mateusz Bogusz keeps up his hot season. He finds the difference maker on an amazing, not an individual effort, but his first touch to kind of break the Whitecaps back line and then start at home. I mean, he's having an unbelievable year. And I mean, that was at the end of the day in a 1-0 game. You need a moment of magic. Bogusz brought that moment of magic, and he was the difference maker.
Yeah, and I think like LAFC. I mean, how many times have we seen this LAFC Vancouver matchup now? And there's 4 times in the last 2 months or whatever. Plus the fact that it seems like they're inevitable meeting in a high-profile game at least once a year. But it usually ends very poorly for Vancouver. It didn't, I feel like, end as bad as we've seen in the past. So I think Vancouver has started to really improve. They look pretty decent, I'd say. Like you're saying, that first half was really good. But eventually it's just LAFC, and the ability to find someone who's just going to give you 30 goal contributions every year is absurd. Like,
Yeah.
And there's just so much talent. At the end of the day, there's a reason they finished first in the conference. I think getting to the 3 games is pretty huge for Vancouver. Unfortunately, it just came up short against an LAFC team that's incredible.
And look, this is what's supposed to happen, right? Round 1 is a 3-game series. It gives a little bit of a chance for a mistake to be fixed by the higher seed, or giving the higher seed a little bit of an opportunity for a small slip up. And that's what happened here. LAFC dropped game 2 in Vancouver. Now they are the 1 seed in a single elimination game that will be hosting all of their games all the way up to MLS Cup if they want to, or if they make it at this point. And it's exactly what LAFC should be doing. They did it, and kudos to them. The one thing that does have me concerned, and I've said it slightly on this podcast before, but is the play of Olivier Giroud. He did not start in this one. Interesting to me that Cherundolo in a must-win game at home starts Mateusz Bogusz at the 9 when you invested so much in Giroud. But I also think it shows how poorly he's transitioned into Major League Soccer. He only scores in Cup finals, so maybe he's waiting for the start in MLS Cup, and we'll score Hattie in that game. I don't know, but I'm a little concerned about the Giroud play. But this team also is built to have depth and talent all around, so I think they'll be fine. But I don't know if you have anything you want to say about that. Otherwise, we can just go to the East.
No.
Eastern Conference. We've already talked Inter Miami once. Let's talk Inter Miami again. Number 1 Inter Miami versus number 9 Atlanta United. It was an unbelievable, historic. We talked about the Crew Red Bull historic win 2 weeks ago. Now we got to talk about the most historic win once again. Atlanta United winning 3-2 on the road in Miami. A brace from Jamal Tiare, Bartio Schliess with the game winner in the 76th minute when Toto Aviles is rolling around in the box, and that's going to be the image of how this season ends for Inter Miami. I don't know where we want to start with this, Jason, but ultimately at the end of the day, I think Inter Miami's defense, their back line, plenty of people have said it. I've said it. You've said it. Broadcasters, season pass, extra time soccer-wise, whoever you want to fucking talk about that covers U.S. soccer. They've said that this Inter Miami defense is bad. The back line is bad. This is a team that didn't have a fully fit Sergio Busquets as well. No Yannick Bright as well. And they allowed 3 goals at home to Atlanta United, and they're out of the playoffs after a record-setting season.
Yeah, I mean, they were allowing an average of 2 goals a game, right? Because I think there were 6 for Atlanta that series. Quick math there. But, like, that's just not good enough to win MLS Cup, let alone beat Atlanta, apparently. So
I mean, apparently Atlanta are world beaters.
And we've seen, it not matter at times, but it always kind of matters, right? And it's one of the things that I was actually more concerned with the Galaxy for than Miami, but that kind of flipped recently because the Galaxy seemed to actually have the ability to score 5 goals every game. But yeah, when Miami's goals weren't coming as easily, when you have Brad Guzan playing like he does,
Bro, I
like
just
that's the
did the
thing,
math. Guzan averaged 6 saves a game in this series.
which is insane. Like when you think about it, like their reliance on that side of things, right? And you have Messi, which at times he scores when it doesn't seem possible. But it's almost like they got too complacent in that sense. And allowing 2 goals a game is just not good enough. It wouldn't have been good enough going forward, even if they had passed this. I think at the end of the day, that's just not going to be near what you need. And Atlanta United has talent. We've talked about how they sort of retooled and successfully. I mean, at this point, this is further than I thought they'd ever get, right? And it's impressive what they're doing. It's kind of crazy. They technically don't have a coach still. Like this team has a decent amount of new players and no coach. And
Rob Valentino, give him the head coaching job at Atlanta.
At this point, why not? Like it's new important players are coming in. Well, they lost essentially all of their production, or like I don't know, 80%. You could probably get with a couple players.
Yeah,
and they were able to get this far and get past a team that again broke the record for points in the season. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think there's not a huge amount. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about them when we preview the games, but like this is embarrassing for Miami, and I think they should. I don't care if they're complaining about the format. This is the format. Like, what do you want us to do about it?
Well, I did
win 2 games, dude. This probably makes it easier for the higher seeds.
I did a little bit more diving into the format, complaining because obviously this is being translated across a different language, and I think some people maybe took some things out of context. Apparently wasn't complaining about the format directly. It was complaining more that like the playoffs are a thing and that they should be known as league champions. And I get it, right? You're coming from a culture where the MLS Cup playoffs wouldn't exist anywhere else. But at the end of the day, you still have to play these games. You signed up for it. You were bad across 2 of the 3 games. And I mean, look, Luis Suarez, I thought was trash across the second and third games of this. I wasn't overly impressed with Diego Gomez as well. And look, some of these opportunities that Miami didn't put away are because of Brad Guzan standing on his head, because of Dax McCarty playing an unbelievable final.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been a blowout in 2 games.
But like the quote unquote lack of finishing from Inter Miami is not purely. Some of it was bad finishing, but Brad Guzan did some unbelievable things. This Atlanta team really did do a great job at closing down windows and closing down opportunities. Again, Dax McCarty, got to give him the credit, not because I'm just rooting for this guy at this point to just go out on top of his career, but it's unbelievable, and I'm happy for this Atlanta United team. I didn't know I'd ever feel this way about Atlanta United. Like I truly have joy in my body for them.
Underdog Atlanta United, I don't think anyone was ready for.
No one had it on the bingo card. Just also want to shout out Pedro Amador. I mean, I think he had an assist in all 3 of these games, but the amount of games straight for Atlanta that he has recorded an assist, I have to pull up really quickly because it's ridiculous. He's 5 straight games for Atlanta with an assist, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in 10 games for Atlanta. His last 10 games for Atlanta, he has 8 assists. Like, the dude's balling from the left back position, and I just got to give him the love because he's killing it. But that is the biggest upset victory in MLS Cup playoff history right there, folks. Let's move on to the right side of New York, the blue side of New York, the 2021 MLS Cup champion side of New York, NYCFC taking down FC Cincinnati on the road. I'm going to take this one a little bit here, Jason, just because I have my we can talk about the Cincy stuff after. I'll let you dive into that. But New York City FC is not a good team on the road. At the end of the day, it's quite embarrassing. I think the drastic difference between this team at wherever they're playing, quote unquote, home to wherever they are on the road, right? This was not a good performance.
So was the next series like the best thing ever?
Exactly, right? This is not a good performance from them in Cincinnati. I think Matt Freese kept them in this game. Matt Freese has kept this City team in a lot of games this season, and is a reason why he should have been an actual MLS finalist for goalkeeper of the year. This game came down to PKs where luck just happens, and this might have been the worst PK performance I've seen from two teams. Matt Freese was good, so was Roman Celentano, but the amount of skied balls and shit was absolutely insane. I'm not going to just sit here and say it was a lucky win, because that's not fair to the team that won at the end of the day, but this was a good defensive performance.
Too fair to the team that lost.
Exactly, right? I think that's also a good point. But this was a good defensive performance, I think, from both sides. New York City, again, like they did in game one against Cincinnati, didn't create much, but they were able to hang on, get to a PK shootout where it's the 50-50 game, and ultimately City came out in that fashion. So now we move on to the next round with them, and we'll talk about the next round in a little bit. But Jason, the stuff falling, of course, New York City doesn't get the credit for winning. All the news comes out about Cincinnati, right? Immediately after this game, Lucho Acosta's coming out with comments that he might have played his final game for this club. Tom Bogert sitting here reporting that, and it's a little bit more official since I typed up these notes, that they have a record double-digit $1 million signing coming in from Cercle Bruges in Belgium, a Togo international striker. I'll pull up his name while we talk, but Cincinnati, I think, might have just as much of an interesting offseason as we're talking about compared to like Inter Miami.
Wait, say that again.
Like I'm saying, I think they might just be having, or they're up for just as interesting of an offseason as we're going to see from Inter Miami and whatnot. Like I think the fallout from this
more so because the Cincinnati team, like we know they're good. If Lucho's gone, he's sort of like the cog or whatever in the wheel, whatever, he's the central piece that makes it all work. And he's been doing that for a pretty long time now. He's kind of a staple on this team. He's a staple in the MVP lists every year. Like without him, they have no way. They're nowhere close to where they are this year, right? Because the injuries really piled up on Cincinnati. It was pretty rough for them. Like the back line got just decimated. I think Lucho was the consistent thing and has been the consistent piece in making this team work and go. Yeah. And so any transition off of that, regardless, is at least going to be a big deal. It may work. And I think at this point, we have to give Chris Albright and Pat Noonan in that whole front office their respect, because they've been able to pull off some pretty impressive moves in the last few years to make this team competitive and to keep them competitive. Mm-hmm. And even with the injuries, like obviously there is a expectation or a level of play there that is sort of, this is where the bar is. And if you're not at this, then you shouldn't be there. And the players seem to buy in. If you're Kip Keller coming off to replace Miles Robinson or something, like you're going to play well and you're going to put it all in there. And I think that's something that we give a lot of respect to, like a Columbus for, or I don't know, maybe LAFC you could argue, but I think we don't maybe mention it as much with Cincinnati, and they've definitely been able to do that. But yeah, this offseason, I just went like way off topic for your question.
In all honesty, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. So you just took the Cincinnati route and rolled with it, and I'm happy.
Well, I just think like FC Cincinnati, as much as this is a pretty rough way to end their season, I think we had sort of, I don't know, not expected. I mean, we both picked New York City, and I think where FC Cincinnati was towards the end of the season was not a good spot. They were tailing off. It was like, what were they doing at home? And again, at home is where they lose.
Can we also be fair to Cincinnati? And I know you're saying this partly, but I just want to make sure we clearly.
I'm trying to give them more respect.
Cincinnati over the last 2 seasons has been unbelievable. And I think with where reports were coming out this summer transfer window at the players they were trying to sign, the money they were trying to spend, and then obviously what's coming out, and I have it all here. Kevin Denke, the 23-year-old Togo international striker from Cercle Bruges, he just won the Belgian Golden Boot last season. He has 82 goal contributions in 147 games for Cercle Bruges. He will be, Tom Bogert's reporting, this is a $16.2 million fee, which is going to set the new league record. Like, this is a dude that if Lucho Acosta hangs around for, and for the fans who are saying they want Lucho gone, you're dumb. If this is a Lucho Kevin Danke-esque team, because this Cincinnati team was a high-level striker away from easily moving past New York City, even if it was bad form. And this is a dude that will do that. Lucho
probably not in bad form with a very high level.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
Lucho's going to find you. Lucho is going to put in 2, 3, 4 balls every game that are super threatening if someone can get on the end of them.
Exactly. And Yuya Kubo did it for a large chunk of the season, and Luca Orejano had some of his wonder goals, but at the end of the day, there wasn't a high-level 9 giving Lucho those assist numbers, and Lucho still put up stupid assist numbers. So this Cincinnati team last year was amazing. This year was good. Yes, there was a drop-off, but I think this front office, this coaching staff is going to be just fine and build for 2025.
Also, the injuries at the back line, you've had a shell of what they thought they were going to have.
You've had Matt Miazga gone for like 2 years.
Defender of the year basically is just gone.
Yeah.
You have Miles Robinson, who's missing major chunks of the season with international play, which I mean that's expected. But I don't know. Overall, Cincinnati's going to be fine. I think if they bring in a top striker, though, and lose Lucho, I'd be a little bit more concerned. Because
I don't disagree.
I think they're going to need a replacement for Lucho no matter what.
Look,
if he's gone, obviously.
Yeah, the system runs around Lucho, which is how this team has been built. So obviously you can build the team differently. You can structure the team differently. Those are totally fair
and there's
options.
Still an incredible amount of talent around.
Exactly. You still have Orejano, you still have Yedlin, Miaz. Like, you still have even Obi Nobuodo and Roman Celentano. This team's really good. There's no doubting that. They were just missing a striker, period. And that's what ultimately cost them, I think, this game specifically, and what their 2024 season was. But
like I said when we started, Lucho is the centerpiece.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
The plans don't work without Lucho in the middle. And so if they're going to lose Lucho, I would then.
If you're going to lose them, you better have a plan B.
I think they're still a good team. I think they're still a playoff team probably without Lucho, but fully healthy. But without him, I don't think they're competing for the supporter shield.
I don't disagree. All right. Let's talk about the last game 3. Orlando City versus Charlotte FC. At the end of this one, it was a very ugly Orlando City win in PKs. Charlotte was up for not most of it, but Charlotte was up for a good amount of time until a stupid play from Jabril Diani in the box in stoppage time. He puts a fully extended arm into the back of Duncan McGuire. Duncan McGuire goes down, shoulder separated, by the way. That's going to be something to watch out for Orlando. But Facundo Torres steps up, buries the PK. Then this game goes to PKs. And ultimately, Pedro Gaese had a fantastic PK shootout. Christian Kalina couldn't match his Game 2 PK shootout form, which is nothing against Kalina. That's totally unfair to him. But at the end of this one, Orlando comes out with the PK shootout win at home, and they are now the top seed in the Eastern Conference. But anything on this one before we kind of talk about the rest?
I mean, this ended up being a pretty crazy. Again, it still stayed such a keeper-heavy series.
Yeah.
All the way to the end. So, I mean, I think going forward, that's exciting for Orlando because if they can get some more goals, I feel pretty confident in.
I mean, you're playing, I guess, or.
I mean, Guzan stood on his head too. So we're looking at maybe another. I mean, the longer Guzan goes, though, who knows? But. I don't know if he could do that. I mean, we'll get to that, but I have my theories about that. But I don't know. I think Orlando's in a pretty good spot here going forward. They should be happy to get through that, though. I think they should be kind of wow, You
A
know,
little deep breath, you know.
Yeah, a big deep breath. Yeah.
I underplayed that, but you're right. Yes. Look, I just want to give Charlotte a little conversational sentence here, I guess. And defensively, was the strength of this team for the entirety of 2024. Defensively, that is what got them through 3 games in going up against Orlando at a 4 seed. This team has the real potential under Dean Smith to be a very good team. They just need to make the right offensive signings, which I feel like we've been saying that every year about Charlotte since their creation period. I just hope Dean Smith can give them a little bit of long-term consistency that they haven't had from the managerial point of view. They give Patrick Ajuman the reins, and hopefully you see a little bit of a step up from guys like Liel Abada and some of these other wingers, and they can make a signing or two. But that's all I want to say about Charlotte.
Obviously, Orlando didn't jump off the score sheet for the most part.
But no.
One goal for Charlotte over 3 games, like, at the same time, they're lucky to even get to 3 games, right? Like, yes. 1 goal over 3 games isn't going to win you a series.
It's not.
I mean, it almost did, I guess. But
I mean, technically yes, but I don't think it's winning you an MLS Cup, which is ultimately what everyone wants to win. You know.
That's
all right, we are 45 minutes into this, roughly. I think we're doing pretty good on time. Let's now dive into the conference quarterfinal previews, and again, we'll keep it
and make our picks
and make our picks too. And we got it. We can do this. So, start in the West. LAFC number 1 seed hosting number 4 Seattle Sounders. Single elimination, folks. There's no back and forth. There's no PK. Well, there might be PK shootouts, but you get it. This game is going to be hosted in
There's extra time in these games, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's extra time.
That's more fun.
No, I prefer that straight to PKs. But if it's in the best of 3 straight to PKs, perfect.
100%.
In a one-off, I'm okay with it.
So LAFC against the Seattle Sounders in 2024. They've met maybe just as much as LAFC and the Vancouver Whitecaps. 4 wins for LAFC with an 8 goal differential. A plus 8 goal differential for LAFC versus the Sounders. Denny Bouanga, obviously, I mean, when isn't he? But he has 5 goal contributions against the Sounders this year. Bogusz has 2 goals. Kai Kamara with a goal and assist. LAFC, you're going to see this a lot more and more, but since there was technically draws in the last round, LAFC does have 4 wins in their last 5 games, 3 of them coming against Vancouver. Their 1 loss in the last 5 is again coming from against Vancouver.
Against 2 teams.
It's fucking wild.
San Jose.
But in the last 5 games, again, we've seen a ton of goal contributions from Bogusz, Bouanga, Atuesta, Kai Kamara, the names that you expect to see on this. For the Sounders, obviously, the series against Houston wasn't maybe the best at the end of the day. We talked about it a little bit last episode. We have some potential injury concerns. They've had some time off maybe to help alleviate that, but they haven't been good against LAFC this year, and they've lost cup competitions. They've lost everything against LAFC. What do you make of this series from a super high level point of view?
I mean, I think both sides coming in, there's reasons to doubt, I guess. Looking at the Vancouver series versus LAFC didn't look unbeatable, and I think Seattle I expected more from in a series that they pretty much were up a man for. I mean, we did talk about this, but they were pretty much up a man for a full game's worth of time. But they got it done. I think the scoring for Seattle worries me a little.
Yeah.
You're going to need Jordan Morris. You're going to need Albert Rusnak. And you're probably going to need Raul Ruidiaz to turn back the clock a little bit and go into that playoff form.
He has to. I would think he has to start. I'm not saying it's the most ideal thing in the world for maybe Seattle fans to see, but I would assume he has to get the start.
I think in a 1 game, you need everything, right? It's stupid, but you literally need like all your guys to be up for this. I think there's no way they're looking at this going, oh, we've lost 4 straight to them. Like, oh, we're scared. No, that's not what Seattle is, right? In
I mean,
LAFC,
I would be, but that's just me. I'm not a professional athlete.
yeah, I was gonna say you're not a professional. I think LAFC going into this is probably not going to be overconfident either. I think they know what they have to get the job done. They're a well-coached team, both sides. So this is a super interesting one. I think in a series, I don't even know. Like this is really hard for me to predict because I know which way I'm gonna go, and it's simply because of my preseason picks, and I'm not that confident in it.
I can give you my take here. So I'm going with LAFC in this series, and I can tell you it's for a multitude of reasons. One, I think the season record against Seattle does play a factor for me. I think that some players just turn it on, or
fair though, like what Seattle was in those games, not this Seattle probably.
I guess, but I mean, we saw it in Leagues Cup, we saw it in US Open Cup, and obviously two regular season games. And sure, it might be
I'm not saying
slightly
it's good, but I think this is a better team than in some of the mid-season injured form.
I don't disagree, but I'm also not going to sit here and say Seattle. And this is the part two of reason why I'm going with LAFC is I don't think Seattle's sitting here on the best form. They beat a Colorado team that was obviously struggling towards the end. They beat a Vancouver Whitecaps team that was struggling a little bit in the regular season towards the end. And then they've drawn Houston twice and Portland once. This isn't a team that has a convincing win to me or even a convincing performance to me against a good team. And yes, the last round you played against Houston where each one of their best two players got a red card in each of those games, like you mentioned, so the scoring is keeping up a little bit. And obviously with what the Sounders are this year, really strong defensive performances. I'm not saying these are going to be blowout wins. Like the US Open Cup semifinal came down to a Denny Bawanga PK and it was a 1-0 win. I'm not saying this is going to be widely, I'm going LAFC winning 2-0, 3-0. Like, no, this is going to be good, close games. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think in LA, I think with the Seattle's form against LAFC this season, Seattle's form recently, LAFC's form recently as well, I think maybe a little bit of playing Vancouver might have jolted a little bit of things. I don't know. I'm going LAFC. I just have way more confidence there.
I do. Like, I was just looking at this because I find this interesting. LAFC is the only team in the semifinals to have a negative goal differential in the first round. Some have 0, right? Because like Seattle, they drew both games. I think Minnesota is also at that 0, but LAFC actually have a negative goal differential and made it through that series, which isn't like. I think Vancouver is probably on a little bit better form than Seattle is currently, or Vancouver was, but it does kind of worry me a little bit. Like we easily could have Vancouver versus Seattle here.
Easily.
I mean,
and that's different.
You could have Houston here in a series they 100% did not deserve to win. But I think that is a little bit concerning. Like, sure, if you look at their last 5, I think we're getting to the point where the last 5 almost don't matter. The last round matters. In the last round,
which is largely, I guess, the last 5. But sorry.
Well, yeah, that mean most of their games. But like at this point, like the last 2 games of the season don't matter. I think having a negative goal differential is concerning. Allowing a decent amount of goals to Vancouver is not great. I think in a one-off game, obviously being at home is a huge deal. And if you look at their home goal differential, it's way better, right? It's 3-1. Like if you take out the away game, it's much better. But I don't know. It's just a little. I just noticed that, and I was like, that's kind of interesting that they're the only team to have that negative goal differential in the first round. But they're also.
I guess my only challenge to that, Jason, is this is gonna sound stupid coming out of my mouth, and I can already say that. LAFC did not allow 4 goals to the Vancouver Whitecaps. They allowed 4 goals to Ryan Gauld. And I don't know if Seattle Sounders have a Ryan Gauld-esque player, period, or anyone in form enough to match that level.
Yeah, but
you just want the Sounders pick.
I'm going with this. I mean, I think Vancouver is more than
Yes.
just Brian Gold too. Like obviously Brian White's very good.
That's why I said it was definitely stupid. But
No, but I
yes.
see what you're trying to say. Like I think it makes sense. I don't think Seattle is as reliant on like we need this person to score or we have nothing. I
Mhm.
think they can kind of create from other places, and that's not to discount Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's more of just like I think Seattle doesn't play through as much one specific route, especially with how kind of balanced I feel like their team is, right? There's a pretty
I
I don't
guess.
know. I don't know what
I
I'm
feel
trying
like
to say.
they
I just feel like it's not like you're right, but it's also it's still concerning to me that they gave up 4 goals
that's fair.
in 3 games and they were only able to put up 3 goals.
Not, I look, it's fair. We will see this weekend which one of us are right. We're already splitting picks on the first game, so I'm happy about that. Let's stay in LA, Jason. Number 2 LA Galaxy versus number 6 Minnesota United. This game again will be played at Dignity Health Sports Park in LA. I know how much you love last 5 games at this point, but I'm going to bring it up because again, I think it's kind of important. Yes,
I'm not
LA.
saying it's not. Form is important. I'm just simply saying the last round is their form at this point.
Well,
I don't care what
I'm
they
gonna
did a month ago when the season was over.
I'm gonna say it as like
Some
this
of these
then.
teams weren't even really competing for much at that point.
Minnesota United in their last 5 have drew RSL 3 of those 5s, and yes, they played RSL in 2 games last round and everything like that. They also did pick up a win against Minnesota and St. Louis. Where the Galaxy, yes,
Vancouver.
3 wins against Colorado in their last 5, and a team that was struggling, and we mentioned that, and that's also totally fair with the loss to Houston in there. But the fact that the LA Galaxy have 15 goals scored in their last 5 games is scary as fuck. Ricky Puig with 9 goal contributions, Gabriel Peck with 8, Joveljic with 4 goal contributions. And yes, again, 3 of those against the struggling Colorado team. I get that. But
2 of those were playoff games. This is my point where it's still like this is where if you had just gone to the last round, 9 goals to 1 versus it's still a struggling Colorado team, but it's playoff games. One of those on the road, but 9-1 is almost more impressive than the 15-5. Right.
The thing that I wanted to get to was that the confidence that, especially those 3 that I just named, Push, Peck, and Joveljic, that they have to be playing with right now due to the form in their last 5 and beyond, it has to be ridiculous. If I'm Ricky Push, I think I can ball any midfield, any defense right now in these MLS Cup playoffs because he probably can. Like, that's the type of form that this dude is on. And, the Galaxy are just super impressive right now to me. And it's so much fun to watch an LA Galaxy game because of the attack, the midfield, and the stepping up of what the defense has been in recent weeks.
Yeah, and it sounds like we're probably going the same way on this matchup.
Well, we have to talk Minnesota a little bit, but
I think we should talk Minnesota a little bit. I think Eric Ramsey, just give him credit where credit is due. What a way to take a hold of this team and really get them going. And I think, you could say the same about RSL, who was somewhat struggling. Better team than Colorado, but
yes,
especially in these playoffs. But I just think what he's able to do with this team has been great. I think he's gotten production out of every striker who's even showed up, right? Like, it doesn't matter who's playing there; he's getting production.
I mean, Kelvin Yeboah though is a future star, if not next year immediate star of this league.
I love what Tani Oluwaseyi's been able to do this season. As well,
and getting into into the Canadian men's national team picture as well. Fantastic.
I like the setup the team has, the formation. Like, it just feels like they have. You know how when you watch like a Columbus, I mean, this is gonna be like I'm comparing to like some of the best, but like when you look at some of these great MLS teams in LAFC even included, Columbus, like they have the way they want to play. You know what you're gonna expect. I kind of feel like under Eric Ramsey, Minnesota's approaching that level of like, I kind of feel like they go into each game with a strong message in how they want to play.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, we're scared of the opponent, no matter who it is. It's, you know what, we're going to go out there and we're going to do what we want to do. And
I
it
agree.
doesn't matter who's on the other side. And obviously, you're running up against potentially a buzzsaw here with like you're saying, that it's just an incredible production out of that front line for the Galaxy. But I do really like where Minnesota's going.
But I think and that's where I want to give Minnesota a clear-cut chance in this game is the formation one under Eric Ramsey with that kind of like, 5-man back, 3-man back, whatever you want to consider it, right? The wing backs, Joseph Rosales and Bongi Hilongwayne at wing back has been a complete shift and has done so much. You see Bongi, you see Joseph Rosales getting constantly up in the attack, getting into the score sheet. Rosales, I think, scored in the second game against the RSL, which is also had Kelvin Yeboah racking up some assists because the dude's pretty good at getting the ball and distributing out to some runners. Robin Ludd, again, one of the most underrated players in this league. The dude's fantastic, and I think he's playing really well within this system. Dane St. Clair's on the heater as well, if we want to talk hot goalkeepers in these MLS Cup playoffs. I think Minnesota I think Minnesota has a chance, and I think that if you continue to see some of these performances again from Kelvin Yeboah, from a Joseph Rosales, and maybe a lucky bounce here or there, I think Minnesota can win this game. I just think that there's a little bit of a talent discrepancy here, across the board. Gabriel Peck has been absolutely on fire recently, and against Minnesota, he has 3 goal contributions in both games against Minnesota this year that the Galaxy have played. I just think that the talent elevates the Galaxy past this. But in year one for Ramsey in Minnesota, I mean, nothing to be embarrassed about or sad about, because 2025 has the potential to be absolutely amazing for the Loons. I just think in this one, it's the Galaxy.
Definitely agree with that. I'm also picking the Galaxy. They basically have they definitely have 3 15-plus goal scorers now. I think.
Yes. No, the top number is regular season goal stats. Okay. So they definitely do, yes.
So they have, and that's really difficult to go up against, right? And especially with Puig, who just has the goals, but also has a shitload of assists because he's just incredible player. I think this is the season, like, everybody who kind of watched this team knew he was good, but this is like the season where it's like, oh, this guy can lead a team to very, very great heights. So I think huge respect to what Minnesota's been able to do, especially in technically not even a full year of coaching for Ramsey. But I look more for, I don't know. I think it'll be a good game, though. I can't see Minnesota getting run over like like Colorado did.
I can agree with that. I think they're going to put up way more of a fight. I think those outside wing backs, whatever you want to call them, I think they could have a little bit of a
they're also a little bit more structurally sound in the defense than Colorado ended up being towards the end of the season.
I can agree with that as well. Let's jump over to the East. So I have LAFC, U of Seattle. We both have the LA Galaxy. Let's go to the East. Number 4 Orlando City versus number 9 Atlanta United. The game that we all predicted to happen here.
You got both of these wrong.
The game I did. I mean the East. I got bad. The game is going to be in Orlando, right? This is, again, I talked about Atlanta United against Inter Miami. They were 2-0 this year. Atlanta United against Orlando City in 2024, they're 2-0 with the +3 goal differential. Like, where there's a lot of similar, trends here for Atlanta United against Florida teams. At the end of the day, it's kind of exciting to see.
Ruining Florida's dreams.
Atlanta's just shitting all over them right now. Atlanta are hot. They've looked impressive. They beat Miami in 2 games. They also beat Orlando. I know, again, Jason, last 5 don't count, but they also beat Orlando on decision day. Which is big, Jason. They've scored 10 goals in their last 5. Where Orlando haven't looked good in their last 5 games. They haven't looked good last series against Charlotte, right? Obviously needing they drew twice in regulation, and then the game 1 2-0 win against Charlotte, which was fine. It was good. There's nothing to really kind of, I think, overanalyze there. But there is that one loss against Atlanta again. I am having a really difficult time picking against this Atlanta United team, especially added with the fact of how Orlando just was meh their last 2 games.
Are they meh because Charlotte is incredibly good in the defensive line and Kalina was goalkeeper of the year, basically?
Fair. That's
or
a fair
are
point.
they not doing so, as because I feel like that is sort of important because that's probably the best defense they'll play.
For the rest of these playoffs, yeah.
It's close, sure. But at least till I'm
maybe Seattle would be the only other defense that I could compare.
MLS Cup, that's the best defense they're
going
to play. And they got past it. It wasn't pretty, like you said. I mean, that first game, 2-0, I think there was a red card in there, if I remember that.
There was, but it was. I mean, the Pep Biel red was pretty late in the game.
Like 80th, I don't know. So, I mean, I think so. I'll just say it. I'm going with Orlando here.
Wow.
I like the idea of Atlanta continuing on. I'm personally going to go with Orlando. I think, my point is, they still beat a team going up against arguably one of the top defenses in all of MLS, and it's, like I just said, pretty much this whole playoffs. So, and I also is Guzan good? Okay, hear me out.
Wow.
Hear me out. Wait.
He's hating on a national hero right now.
My point is this. Did Atlanta go into that Miami series? At the end of it, it felt personal, right? It
felt personal. Fucking Brad Guzan, we didn't talk about it. He got pushed into a net and flopped a fish for 30 seconds.
Yeah, so was that so heated, I guess, or competitive that it's almost going to be like a downstep to playing Orlando in potentially, this might be crazy, but do you know what I'm trying to say?
My only argument is that this is, and I'm not going to say this is like a league push. This is a rivalry game, and it has been since both of these teams, both of these teams that have come into existence. There has been bad blood between they were different years, but Orlando came in with New York City. But there's been bad blood in these games in between these teams. Yes, we haven't seen it in a little bit, but maybe if Atlanta's bringing a little bit of that fire from the Miami series,
I think they have to bring that fire.
100%.
I think if they're going to get past Orlando, they have to bring that edge because I think that's what gave them the edge in these games. That's what gave them, that's what let Dax McCarty kind of just go superhuman and Brad Guzan. They're relying on these guys who have been around for a long time, who you're kind of not expecting to have that huge of an impact on a game, especially against that Miami team. But I don't know. I think there's a chance that it's not the same fire. And I think.
Do you know what time it is?
It's time for Orlando to win.
It's Saba time. Okay, Saba, what would you need to say? I'm gonna get it better every single time I try to say it.
I read it and I can't tell you what it says.
Saba has been he balled all 3 games against Miami. I think he's the difference maker. I don't know. I'm going Atlanta. I can't not go against it.
I mean, ride the hot hand. I think at the end of the day, Orlando, they're obviously not a better team than Miami, but I think they're going to build off of what they just did for Charlotte more than I think Atlanta. I think Atlanta is wow, we accomplished this thing. They're playing with house money a little bit. Orlando's we actually have a real shot here to get to MLS Cup now.
I have 2 things that I want to finish up this series with. One, in the non-joking around, as serious as I can be about it, Orlando's the best team left in the East. No doubt about it.
From top to bottom. All of these East teams, though, have the mentality that you win and it's not.
You're going to MLS Cup.
You could, you
Yeah.
have this. You can see your route at this point. Like
Yeah.
even for Atlanta, you can see your route to MLS Cup at this point.
100%. So that's what I'm saying is I think Orlando, best roster, best team, best coach all the way down, right? Left in the Eastern Conference. The fun thing that I want to throw out here, Dax McCarty, do you know where he is from? He is from Orlando, Florida. You know where this game's being played? Orlando. He is not going home, literally going home to go home for his career. It's not happening. Atlanta. That's it. Jason, last series.
I love Dax McCarty. I just want to put that out. That guy is one of the best. It's the saddest day of my life when he's going to retire.
Yeah,
well, maybe not the saddest day.
Could be. It's top two, definitely top two. No, it could happen this weekend. Yeah. Let's talk about the last series. Again, a series, or I keep calling it a series because the last round was a series, but a game that I think we all predicted.
That's one game too. So
number 6 New York City FC versus number 7 New York Red Bulls. We got a first ever Hudson River derby in the MLS Cup.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter where they're playing.
It doesn't matter. We're in the general area.
The first one game where both teams are home.
No, stop it. The game actually, the location does matter because I did not want this game played at Red Bull Arena. It is not. It is being played at Citi Field, which is big for New York City.
Oh, I did not realize that. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, I don't know where you're going with this, Jason.
Yeah, I thought it was playing at Red Bull.
New York and New Jersey are separate states.
I love that it's playing at Citi. Wait, why can't they play at the MLB's over?
So New York City requested through the Mets organization that they extend. The Mets are going to close down Citi Field for the winter. They requested one final game to be played there. The Yankees, I think, already declined or something like that. So Citi Field, the Mets are allowing Citi Field to be open for one final event. There will also be a circus going on in the parking lot of Citi Field legitimately at the same day, but that's just where things are with New York soccer. But we do have a Hudson.
Stadium's coming though.
We do have a Hudson River derby again, a regular season finish where one team swept the other. New York City 2 wins against the Red Bulls in both matchups with a +5 goal differential. The last 5 games are pretty equal. I mean, they are equal. 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw for both teams. The Red Bulls obviously coming off that historic, great series win against Columbus. The Red Bull, New York City doing it against Cincinnati, and a few other teams kind of sprinkled in there along the way. But I mean, to me, the biggest difference for this game is that it's being played at Citi Field. It's where New York City has a clear advantage. I can definitely say that. They play well against anyone on a baseball stadium, including the best of the best that we've seen in this league this year, Miami, Columbus, and so on. And especially against the Red Bulls. I mean, last time these teams played, it was a 5-0 win for New York City, so I think New York City
played at Yankee Stadium for that game.
I think so. Yeah. So New York City, to me, I think is coming in with a clear advantage, even though the Red Bulls obviously just knocked off Columbus and they're probably feeling hot and good with themselves. Both teams are allowing a ton of goals compared to what they're scoring over the last 5 games. And I think this has the potential to be a very physical, very tough, rough, high-scoring Hudson River derby to see who, potentially has a really good chance of making MLS Cup.
So did you pick?
Oh, yeah, New York City. I thought that was already assumed, Jason. But tell me.
Assumed, but I just wanted to make sure because
I was going to say, tell me why I'm wrong here.
I am picking the Red Bulls. And
of course you are.
I'm sorry. I have to do it. I actually thought, while I was looking, I was like, do I change? Because you're making some good arguments about this whole baseball field thing. But I think Emil Forsberg, since coming back and kind of being fully healthy, his form has been really good. I think they've kind of unlocked the potential that they had with him in putting him more central and actually figuring out how to properly use their stars, right? Lewis Morgan has also been starting to play really well. So I think just outside of the fact, I think, New York City beat Cincinnati. That's still a pretty impressive and big accomplishment. Like, obviously the Rebels beating Columbus is like this huge upset, and I think a little bit more of a big deal, but it's not to discount what New York City was able to do as well. Poor Ohio just got run over by New York.
That's it, baby.
But I just think like where the Red Bulls are at now is not like a reflection of where they were during the regular season. I think they're one of the teams that is actually in a way different. Like out of all the teams in these playoffs, I almost feel like they're one of the teams that's probably the furthest apart from where they were in the regular season. And when, there was a lot of doubt, I feel like they've started to kind of figure it out. Maybe that's Sandro Schwartz just playing around and finally hitting it at the right time. But I think Emil Forsberg is kind of the X factor for this team, and him playing well. I can't see him just like dropping off, right? Like, I think they figured out how to get him to consistently play well. And when he's consistently playing well, he's potentially the best player on the entire field.
I agree. I mean, look, Emil Forsberg does scare me. I think he is a game changer. When we talked last episode, right? I was the one raving about Emil Forsberg in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
I think if NYCFC starting Maxi Morales at the 10, I think then we have our own little literal game changer in the center of the park. He's like 5'2", folks. That's the joke. But I don't know. I trust the New York City's defense in the last 5. Yes, Cincinnati isn't the most threatening team.
It sounds sad after I picked Red Bulls.
But, look, it's fair. I'm going New York City. You're going Red Bulls. I'm going Atlanta. You're going Orlando. I'm going LAFC. You're going Seattle. We both picked the Galaxy, and those are our picks.
This will be an interesting one. This will be an interesting one to look back on. This is a much different.
It's gonna separate our picks for sure. I need to catch up. I'm two correct picks behind you here, so we will see. Jason,
I like that we took different sides on most of these. It shows how close these are. Like they're not easy picks here.
I think it also shows how fun these games are going to be, and I do think these games are going to be a ton of fun. But I guess, Jason, is there anything else that you want to say before I hit end recording on this episode?
Have a good Saturday watching MLS playoffs.
There you go. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you, guys. Make sure you follow us again over at Blue Sky, MLS Aces over at Blue Sky, as well as Twitter, and every other social media, YouTube, all the podcasting platforms and whatnot. But thank you guys for listening, for watching, and we will talk to you guys for the conference finals preview next week. Bye.